All right, good ways into chapter 2 of the House of Mrth, where we're getting kind of more of a heavy dose of anti-Semitism. Lily Bart realizes, God damn it, I did not handle Mr. Rosedale, the Jewish fellow, at all how I should have. When I was surprised by him, I shouldn't have lied to him. I should have just said, we had tea. I had tea with Selden, and that would have made it innocuous that way. But now I concealed it, so it makes it sound like I'm trying to conceal something more than what it actually is. That I was in the Benedict, the bachelor apartments, owned by Mr. Rosedale. And second, she shook him off, just snubbed him, didn't allow him to take her to the station, because that in itself would have kind of paid for his silence, just the privilege of getting to take her there. It turns out they have a bit of a history. Mr. Rosedale, because one of her cousin Jack had basically, probably sounds like, owed him money, had paid him back by getting him an invite to a dinner, at which point Lily, who usually is kind to everybody because you just never know who's going to come up first, she cut the guy off immediately, harshly. So it was, and everyone else there was like, ugh, this thing, and she keeps on describing him of his race's ability to size up money-wise stuff. There's a lot of his race stuff, which is just like, yeah, that's the Jewish people are all about money and all about sizing things up for money, kind of that sort of thing. So not only is lower class, he's Jewish, and that's definitely he's getting dissed for this. So yes, she's like, shit, I shouldn't have done that. That said, she gets on the train. She notices, like, oh, is there anyone else traveling up? And she sees a blonde guy, and that is Grice, Mr. Percy Grice, who is indeed the person that she wanted to kind of bump into. And he's like shy. He appears shy, at least. He's hiding behind the newspaper. She kind of walks by him as the train lurches and like, oopsie, and thus they bump into each other. She invites him over to have tea. He says, oh my God, this is the best tea I've ever had, because he's having tea with a pretty woman. And she's like, yeah, you haven't basically got to hang out with a pretty woman all by yourself, have you? And it's like, I'm going to use this. But the conversation starts to flag, at which point she says, oh, got to take out the heavy guns. And this explains her interest in Americana with Selden, and her quizzing Selden on Americana, and her mentioning the Grice Americana collection, which indeed Mr. Percy Grice is the possessor of. He didn't actually build it himself. It was an uncle who actually built it. But he now takes great possession, great joy in it. He gets mentioned. He's very shy. He does not like publicity, but he loves having his name mentioned in stuff about the Grice Americana, and kind of came to regard himself as a figuring prominently in the public eye, and to enjoy the thought of the interest that would be excited if persons he met in the street or sat among in traveling were suddenly to be told that he was the possessor of the Grice Americana, which I doubt very much many people are. I think this is just the very start of kind of like Americana, and it's not, you can tell it's not a high prestige thing, but he's taking a great delight in it. So she's been preparing for this. She knew she was going to go, she's going to Belmont to the Trenners, and apparently one of her targets was Percy Grice. So she boned up on this, and she says like, oh, okay, well, maybe this is worth all that dumb impulse, indiscretion of going up to Selden's place, because I have the info necessary to butter this this mark up. I think of him as a mark because this is very calculated stuff. This is engineered. You can tell she probably does not give a shit about Americana, but she cares about getting in with Mr. Percy Grice, and perhaps bagging him as a marriageable fellow there. So yeah, that is the House of Mrth. There's the anti-Semitism. And there's just like the female, like, okay, I gotta work this. I gotta work the room. I gotta collect information. I need to be on the attack to be able to. I'm 29. I need to find a husband. This isn't gonna just do it itself. I don't have a lot of money. I need to work the levers. And indeed, she talks about basically working him like he's a mechanism. Where does she yes, because yes, when she saw that look of lassitude, that she, well, she sees a bit of dullness actually, and she's like, oh, okay, I need to operate this lever and thing. There was, however, one topic she could reply on, one spring that she had only to touch to set his simple machinery in motion. She had refrained from touching it because it was a last resource, and she had relied on other arts to simulate other sensations. But as the settled look of dullness began to creep over his candid features, she saw that extreme measures were necessary. And indeed, that is what gets him back on side. That is on location 304 on this ebook. All right, I'm going to leave it there. More videos later.